Hi guys, good day to you guys, and welcome to again another session of the tutorial for web development under ASP.NET using Visual Studio. So what gonna be doing for today is we're gonna be creating a login in Visual Studio 2019. Okay, so be sure to watch the different parts of the tutorials so that you could follow what we're gonna be doing for today. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be creating a new project, and let's just create a web form, an empty web form. So just in case you have not yet watched the previous videos, we have already given tutorials for installing Visual Studio, creating databases, projects. So please be sure to watch them first before you go through these tutorials. Okay, so I'm gonna be picking ASP.NET as the format that I'm gonna be using. Then if you do want to have to choose your own, you could actually pick a lot of options here. You could use different languages, you could use different formats or different types of projects. So since I have already used the .NET framework for Visual Studio, this is already been added into our templates. So I'm just gonna go and click next, and we're gonna be naming this as sample login. Okay, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna create it. Let's proceed with creating our application. So we'll be using the empty format, and let's just wait for it to load. Okay. So what we're gonna be doing is we'll first create a simple table that has different fields to it. So we're gonna be creating a table user, and we'll be adding a database first. Okay. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be adding a database first. So as you can see, I have here on the Solution Explorer. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to right click add, and I'm gonna click new item. So this new item will allow me to add the database. Go to this to the left side and click on the data, then click on SQL Server Database. So please do remember that this is an integrated SQL database function for Visual Studio. So it is not under the SQL Server, and this is the best database that you could use for small projects only. So let's say let's put in VB user, add it to this as a database, and remember that according to this error, they will be adding a folder named app data folder that will be added into our solution. So just click yes, so that it could be separated from the other objects that we do have on our project. So there you go. So we have the app data folder, and underneath it is the users. Okay, so our database is right here. So we did had a lecture last time on how we could be able to create a function wherein we could add tables. So you could always watch that so that you could have an idea how to do it. But I'm gonna do this much more easier right now, the shortest way possible, so that we could be doing it faster. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is gonna go to this side. So remember to click this first so that you could view your server explorer, and then right click, and then we'll be adding a new table. So as I've said, I will not be doing the long version of creating a table. I'll gonna go and do it as fast as I could. So I'm gonna add here a user ID, simple username, okay, and it's gonna be barcode P, no nulls. Then let's put in a password. Perfect. So you could limit the values, but I'm just gonna be using the default. So you could also do manual here. Instead, what we're doing right now is the faster way, not using the script or creating a table. I'd rather be doing the much more faster way of doing the database. So I'm gonna click update so that the design for the table will be saved. Oops, okay. So let's put in cancel first. I forgot to change the name. It's gonna be in TBL users. Don't update. Try to change it first, then update database. So we'll just wait for the green check, and that's it. It's completed. So if we click refresh, click the arrow down, and we will be able to see the TBL users. So let's close this one. Right now we don't have a form, so that's still good. We're just gonna be adding it later on. Let's just add in a few data into our table. Click show table data. Let's put numbers because it's integer, so 1. Then let's say, for example, admin 1, password number 2. Let's say clerk, then 2. Okay, so we'll be using this just for a basic login. Let's close this one, and then let's add in the design for the form. So right click on your website and then click add, and then new item. Click on the web, and then click on the web form. So let's put here, let's rename this as login page. So the login ASP.aspx, that's the name of our page. So click on add. Then as we have done before, we could click design. If you want to view the design, we can go for split. If you want to see the design and the code as well. So what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm just going to be using the design, and I'm going to go and insert a table. So the table for this one is just going to be a basic design which has about, let's say I have 4 rows and 2 columns. Okay. So this is automatically added in our source. There you go. That's automatically styled. We need not to worry about it. What I'm gonna be doing is just gonna be adding here the username, password below. So we could always use label if you want, but right now what I'm trying to center everything. So put in a text box here. Go to the toolbox and text box. Click drag a text box. Box 1. And let's put in a button for the login. So we're gonna be naming or having it a text change. Okay, so the text property will be changed to login. And then this will be named as txt. Okay, let's go to design. Okay, let's name this as txt. Okay, txt username. I'm sorry, that's password. I'm sorry, txt password. And then let's put this one, the one on top, as txt, so that we could use it properly later. And then let's put this as btn. Okay. So what we're gonna be doing is to assure that we could see that we are really logging in. I'm gonna be adding another form, and this is where we will be showing that when we log in, this form will appear. So let's call this as the main form. Then add. Then let's just put in a simple design. Let's click in table again. So let's put in 3 columns as for now 4. Okay, I'm gonna be adding here log in as logged in. Gonna put that label will catch whoever is logged in. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be going to put a full button for logging out. So let's change the text and log out. Okay, there we go. So aside from this, to be able to test the page if it is working properly or not, I'm gonna putting in an extra button just for the purpose of testing. So remember, this button is for us to text or to get notified if it is working properly or not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be setting up a session later on. So reminder that this button is added just to be sure that the session will be working properly. So I'm gonna be naming or having the text button as going to log in. So go to login, and then vice versa on the other page, on the login page. Again, we're adding a button for testing, and this button will be for go to let's say main. I click this, I'll go directly to the main page. If I click this, I go directly to the login page. Now remember, the use of a session is to identify if someone is logged in or not. So we will be adding those codes later on so that our sites could recognize if someone needs to log out first before accessing the login. So we could not have multiple logins on our site. Okay. So what we're gonna do is gonna go first for our simple codes. I'm gonna be opening this up, and the simple code is to response that sorry, I'm gonna respond that redirect, and I'm gonna be going to okay, sorry, to the main dot that is the that is I click this, I'll go to .aspx, and then vice versa. Go to login, double click this, go to response that redirect. So this code just allows you to go from one page to another. Dash main. Oh, I'm sorry. Main and main.aspx should going to log in. Sorry, just log in. So if I do run the site, and since we did had added some code, so it will be able to uh, allow us to run and switch from the different forms. Now remember, the goal of these simple codes is to identify if the website is identifying if someone is logged in or not. So if you're trying to access, there you go. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to different pages by clicking in the button. So later on, if someone is not logged in, I will not be able to go to the main page. So someone needs to log in first before we could go to the main page. And at the same time, we cannot go to login if someone has not yet logged out. So you will be able to notice this in some websites that they do not allow their users to log in another account. They just need to log out first. Okay. So that's the thing that we need to assure. Okay, so what do we need to do? So we go to login first, or we're gonna be adding a class. This class is gonna be used for the connection. The new item, and then go to web a code, sorry, in class. Just name this as connection class. Okay, or let's shorten this one. Let's con class, the connection class. So in the connection class, we're gonna be adding some codes. So using system that configuration, and we're gonna be adding using system data that okay, so the reason for adding these libraries is that we'll be using some codes that is referring to within our server. So we'll need to create a connection first. I'm gonna be adding here on the login page. First, I'm gonna go to data category, then put data source. We will be configuring first the data source. Go and click on this drop down and click on DB users. See that there is a connection string, then click on next. So we will be naming it properly. So I'm gonna be using the name as user con string. So this is how I do naming variables, my connections. So I'm gonna be using this one. Then click next. So you could have your own name. If you want to set it in much more easier way, then that's good. So click next. We'll just pick everything and see that if we do test the query, we will be able to see what are the data inside. So click on finish, and then this would mean that we have a connection active. We will be using it on the on class. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is to set a public static SQL connect con is equals to new SQL equals to new SQL connection. Okay, so we will be inserting supposedly the connection string inside because this is the connection. So since we are using the configuration settings, type in configuration manager that connection strings, then we put in on these brackets the our connection string, which is user con string. And then right now that connection string, so do not be confused, this one has a connection string, this one has a letter S on it. That connection strings, which is the connection string that we defined earlier. So if you're not sure, just go back to DB users. As you can see, we have it here, and if we do take a look on the data on the store, you can see here that we have here user constraint. Okay. So we will be using this later on the code. So let's go first for the login. Let's type in some. So the first thing that we need to do is to add first thing them that data that SQL client. Okay. Then go back to login and then start the codes. So the first thing that what I'm gonna do is gonna go ahead and declare a string. This string will be having the string for our SQL statement. So login CMD or login string, sorry, login str I will be naming it login str equals to, I'm gonna putting in here the specific SQL statement that I'm gonna go in. Select count asterisk from PL users where the username is equals to the parameter at uname and the password is equals to at the word. Okay, so what this will do is it will gonna be searching for, I'm sorry, this is going to be searching for a specific number of records. So what this is going to be doing is that the SQL is going to be searching for a specific number or count. So if it does find the record at least once, then that means that the username is correct. If it does not find anything, then that would mean that the username and password, either the username or password is incorrect, because it requires that the username and password is correct, the record. So what we're going to be doing is we're creating a command. So it's going to be the SQL command we're inserting for connecting to the database and the command. So I'm going to be naming this as login CMD. You can name it as your own if you want. So new SQL command and the name of my connection is going to be login str and the current connection that we have. Since we are using a class, we're going to be using con class dot con. So this is the connection that we did have on the con class. So we're currently using it right now. Okay, so that is because that is the connection that we do have. So the next thing is we're gonna fill in some datas that will be coming in for these parameters. So remember that parameters are variables that you could set a specific value with. So right now, I'm gonna do adding a log um as a parameter, and I'm gonna be adding a value in those parameters. Okay, so the first thing is gonna be adding a at name, so that should be the same there. Then on this one, I'm gonna txt username text. So what this will do is that whatever is within the username will be transmitted to the uname, or the uname to get the value within that will be used for identifying if there is a record in the table of the specific username that you're trying to type. Okay, so I'm gonna be copying this one. I'm just gonna be changing parameter in that is what we use here, and I'm gonna be using txt password. Okay, so that means it's not does not conflict with the name because I've been using the proper name for my objects. But still, if you do have your own ideas on how to do it, then that's good. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening our connection. So class con.open. Now remember, always set closing as well. So whatever code is within this, that it will be using the connection or opening the connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the number of records that will be found. It's either 1 or 0. So that value will be inserted to a count or a variable. And int ctr or the counter is equals to the result. Okay, so I'm gonna type in the code first. Int 32 login login cmd 3 sorry that to 3. Okay, so let me explain the code. So as we have said, we will be selecting a specific number of record. So if the username and password is correct, it's to get a 1 record because there's no duplicate in that row or on the table. Or it could find 0, meaning there's no username and password that has been searched from the table. So what will happen is this CTR can either get a value of 1 or 0. Okay, so if it finds the record, then it gets 1. If it does not, it gets 0. So that means you should have a proper username and password that's in the table to get a value of 1. So remember, if the counter's value is equals to 1, meaning it was able to search a record in the table, then execute a code, and else, then that would mean that the username and password is correct. So we will just simply add a simple message response.write. So we will make it simply so invalid username dash password. So lots of things for you guys to use something that you would what you would run to write. So I'm just doing it the much more easier way. So it will response that you have an invalid username and password if it gets 0, but if it gets 1, then here's what you will do. You will go, okay, you will go to the next page, which is name.txt. Okay, and then aside from this, what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be assigning or creating a session variable. Now the session variable will carry out the username of the person that is currently logged in. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but this is one. So we will be able to identify what is the name of that person. Okay, we go in. So if we go into the next page, we could identify there is someone who's currently logged in. Okay, let's go ahead, try this one. So if I do have an invalid user, then it will respond to me valid. Let's go to the login page, then run this. So remember that the username and password that we added earlier is just admin1 and alert 2. So let's say admin2. This is wrong. If I click login, it tells me that is invalid username and password. But if I have it correctly, then I'll go to the next page. That's good. So so what we're gonna be doing right now is we will identify if there is someone logged in or not. Okay. So what we're gonna be doing is if we want to run the main right now, we don't have a problem running it, but it should be able to require us to log in first. So right now I'm playing this directly because it does not identify if someone is logged in or not. So it doesn't have a function. But if I go to login, it goes there, no problem. So here's what we're gonna be doing. I'll go to main, I'll go to code, and I'll go to page load. So what the page load will be doing is it will identify if there is a value in the session. So it will ask if the session, which is what we declared earlier, which is uname, is not equal to null, or it does have a value, then it should be able to have the value seen on the label. We will be adding the username on the label. Identify who is right now. Okay, go back, set it. So we will be setting the label one, that text, since we did find that there is a value on the session. We're gonna be setting it as session username. So to ensure that we don't have any problem, I that the string because we are going to add it on a object. And all objects are usually character. They should be converted. So if, however, no one is logged in, okay. If, however, no one is logged in, then what it will do is it will go back to the login page. Okay, so it will redirect you directly to the login.asp. So if someone is no, this really does not able to log in, then at the same time, what we're gonna be doing, adding some the logout button. So this is very simple. We will just set, since someone is logging out, we will be setting the session username that we declared earlier, and this will be equal to null value, or it doesn't contain anything. So I'll go in response that redirect and to lead you back to the login since you pressed the log out. So remember that the code reads from top to bottom. So if you click log out, it will clear first the username, then go back to the login. Okay, so I guess that's the function. Now, also, if we go back to login, it will also need to identify if it's logged in or not. So we're gonna be getting code earlier on page load. Get it? log in, paste it as well. We're just gonna be changing values. So if the username password is blank or it has something, okay, so it will go to the main page. So to the main. Okay, so we'll be removing this because we do not have anything to say to the user because he is not logged in. Or we could actually write in some words if we want to. Words corresponds that right. Okay, so kindly log in. So let's try to load the main.asp or the login.asp right now. Load it. No one is logged in, so I cannot really go back to the main page. You can see there is a difference right now. Since I haven't logged in, I cannot really go back to the main. Although earlier it was need to log in first. Admin, admin, in. I was able to log in and it now identifies admin. So our code identifies who is the current user. If I go to login, however, I am not accepted as well because it identifies that I am correct. What I need to do is I need to log out first. Let's say let's try clerk. Password is identified. So I think that's it for today, guys. Working fine. It identifies the session and identifies who is currently logged. So I guess that will be it for now for our tutorial 4. So we'll be adding more and more codes for tutorials. So again, this is Sir Arca and have a nice day. So if you want to subscribe, please do subscribe. If you want to comment down below if there are functions that you want me to do in these tutorials. So again, have a nice day and good night.